I got back on Sunday evening, no, Saturday. We all worked out. Late Saturday. Well, all things worked out. So cool. But then when I wasn't sure.
Piano,
All over.
yeah. So it worked out.
Yeah.
So when it snows, I get covered. I can't my phone now.
Well, we're gonna change my story. If you want. I made and business if you all. I made some comments. I wanted to. I heard. Follow me to you down to
Enough's
a place down there. It's got a the barn. Walks up and it's like $13,000. What do you think? Okay, how much you want?
I forgot to.
1 minute. That's like a lease. Another rough one call, $13,000 for it. What it was, is that his family was on film, made the place hot. Now what's left of the kids. And they've been sitting out there since '6, taking theirs.
Wow. Really cool.
All right, according to my calendar, or my clock, it's now 6:30, so let's go ahead and pull this meeting together. Please stand for that. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome everyone to our April, I think it's already April, City Council session. Although we are going to start today with a work session, that's why we are starting early. Where we're going to go through and take a look at establishing some goals for the city. So with that, I will ask if anyone wants a consent agenda pulled off later when we go into the regular council session. But with that, I'm going to go hand it over to City Administrator Wick.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We have been talking for about the last few months about budget development and how the goals and priorities that council sets will help direct how we build the budget. We have started budget development already for next fiscal year. But kind of the final modifications or adjustments that I will make as the city administrator to provide the budget committee with the proposed budget will include prioritizing the goals that are established here by council. So I want to start out, I have a short PowerPoint. But as you know, and what's in your packet, we have been going through the community visioning process with a consultant. We conducted 2 surveys, had 4 town halls, and then multiple conversations with community members, business owners, and different interest groups throughout our city, and also some of our partners outside of our city. And with that, we collected a bunch of information as far as what their priorities are, what their concerns are. You will see in the packet the community visioning and planning document. It identifies the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, just like the same that you guys did back in 2022. So it has sort of a similar format. It also identifies very similar risks and issues that were identified in 2022. So that's in the packet. So I'm briefly gonna go over, there were 5 focus areas that came out of the feedback that we received from our community members and businesses. They were vibrant economy and small business space with a variety of small and mid-sized businesses that provide goods and services. Number 2 was safe and connected, public safety, streets and sidewalk maintenance, Highway 99 traffic, that was a theme throughout everything. So you'll continue to hear beautification, safety issues, traffic control of 99E. Number 3, involve diverse and caring. So look out for each other, embrace diversity, family-oriented and intergenerational activities and events, and community connection. Number 4, a livable community. So one that grows smartly, and basically what that means is that we're growing at a fast enough pace that we're making our economy sustainable, but not growing too fast where we just don't have the resources to keep our economy sustainable. So one of the things that has been a concern that we're hearing is lack of medical services or grocery store. And as our community continues to grow, how are we going to make sure that we can provide the resources necessary for our community? And also placemaking, community pride and identity. So really honoring our history was significant for our community. Safety, again, was a common theme throughout all of the work that we did on the community visioning, and encourage community pride through beautification and city cleanup activities. So one of the things I wanted to highlight is some of the activities or projects that were identified through the community visioning project we're already working on. So more events such as movies in the park. I have been keeping council updated on the progress that we're making. We've purchased a screen, we found a projector, we've got the license now to be able to show movies in public. I am working with some small businesses to get some sponsorship or see if they want to come out and serve drinks or food or something in our park. So we are working on that, and hopefully we'll have our first movie in June. That's my goal. Public Works is refurbishing the tennis courts, and and the courts will be striped for pickleball, and that was one of the things that the community asked for. Cleaning up 3rd Street, so just beautification, maybe some flower pots or planters. Back when Woodburn replaced their planters on their main streets, oh geez, it was probably 9 months ago. They gave us their old ones, but they're in really good shape, and they're small enough that they would fit along 3rd Street. So that's something we're going to be looking at, and definitely something drought resistant so that we don't have to worry about watering so much. A dog park, council approved location for a dog park. We have submitted a grant application for fencing because that is very expensive. Also, the community mentioned some replacement of our playground equipment. Public Works did submit a grant application for replacement playground equipment at Revenus. And then we are planning a city cleanup day in mid-May. And so we're going to be working with Republic Services and trying to gather some volunteers to help our neighbors too that maybe need some help in cleaning up. So there's work underway already. So this is kind of a long list, so I will keep it very high level because I want council to have plenty of time to talk about their goals and priorities. But some of the projects that came out of the discussion included business retention efforts, especially promoting commercial and industrial, sidewalk construction and maintenance, walking trails, bike paths, street lights, pedestrian crossings, specifically pedestrian crossing on 99E, and some sort of safety mitigation efforts on 99E. Beautification again, communication and engagement with all community members. One area that really came out as a weakness was the lack of support for our diverse community. So that's something that we need to really focus on as far as making sure outreach is occurring with all of our community members and not just certain areas. Updated playgrounds, park on the east of Highway 99. More trees, preservation of greenways, improved amenities, covers for bus stops on Highway 99E. So I did question, is that our school bus stop project that we're working on, and no, it's specific to CAT. So that would be something I need to look into a little bit more about who has authority for that area. It might be a partnership between CAMD, ODOT, and Hubbard, but it's something I can look into. And then clean up Highway 99E, clean up 3rd Street, clean up G Street, build out a community calendar such as music in the parks, parades, ice cream socials, and then a community center or a new library. The library was pretty significant. We do have a bookmobile that's going to be starting up again this summer. We have worked out a deal with Hubbard or with Woodburn that any fees for checking out a book that they would normally charge is going to be waived. So we've figured that out. And then consideration for council, I kind of mentioned this, that we need to mitigate any risks. We need to look at economic development and sustainability for our community. We need to, one of the risks that I really see happening with Hubbard in particular is our infrastructure, our aging infrastructure. And so prioritizing some of that work. Some of our revenue challenges, I think, also is a risk, but we can capitalize opportunities such as policing services and community connections. So with that, that's just a high level overview of what came out of our community visioning project. And now I'll just direct it back to the mayor and council for discussion.
So I had the opportunity to attend at least half of the visionings. I think I missed the last two. But the general consensus, or at least what I was taking away, was definitely put up there. One of the big things I kept hearing is what can we do as a council, as a city, to improve 99? I think we even had, I think Mr. Lopez, if I'm not mistaken, or he came up and actually presented last week as well. Sidewalks on 3rd Street would be nice, but his contentious area, and I agree with it, was between D Street and G Street. There's no sidewalk to traverse that. You can't walk from, say, the corner down to the Hubbard Burger Hut without, there's no sidewalk there. So one of the areas that I think we should try to focus on as what we can is maybe engagement with ODOT, see what we can do to get into some sort of partnership with them to do the improvement along at least that area. We can do some beautification, at least in that major section. I mean, if we could just get sidewalks put in there with buffer streets, that will go a long way with at least making our area look better. And I know as an area, or as a discussion as a council, we've also talked about the importance of our business district, not just 3rd Street, but 3rd Street, 2nd Street. I'm not really sure about 1st Street, but basically 99E down to 3rd Street. What can we do as a city to also revitalize that? I think 2 things happen on that. One, we might be able to encourage more businesses to come in, locate here, to provide amenities and services to our residents. At the same time, we'll go a long way making our city look a lot better. Now, question on that one is how do we afford any of that, right? Some of it's going to have to be partnership with ODOT, grant seeking, and or setting up some sort of a district, I'm assuming, to allow us to begin funneling funds into a fund that allows us to do something, whether it's planners in the long run, or eventually there's some really great graphics. These are obviously reused from the plan that's been out there for a long time.
2003.
Right, but they still resonate well. I mean, from the concept art that's on there, it really shows what 3rd Street could even look like between the pharmacy and what is now Tripolis. It's quite something. Question is, how do we encourage that development? Well, we're going to have to encourage it through incentives for development on those lots and enforcing cleanup. Right? What's the aesthetics that we plan to do? So that was a big one that I took away, was how do we clean the city up, at least on that. The second part that was really big that I took away from the meetings was, again, the parks, or the amenities within the parks. We're starting to move forward, as we all know, with the dog park. We're already trying to put more focus on keeping our parks clean. getting them cut, et cetera. The tennis court refurbishment with the pickleball is another big one. But one area that is glaring this for us, we still don't have a park on the other side of the road, which means half of our city, not gonna be half, but a third, they don't have a park. They have to cross 99 to get here. So maybe that's something we can look at. The other part that was brought up was also the big area on safety concerns. I heard that quite a lot. I know from my point, I have talked with ODOT of all of their open sessions, trying to say, what can we do to maybe get one of the flashing crosswalks down there at the 76 or whatever it happens to be. Also, another one, I was like, can we get another stoplight? Can we get one maybe down there on G Street? Because we have lots of wrecks there, or someone's trying to turn left because they don't live here on a busy day and it backs all the traffic up. But the other thing there is whether it's a stoplight or whether we put another flashing light for crossing, we just need more safe pedestrian crossing areas. I think right now we've got one, and that's on D Street at the corner. So those are the big takeaways I took away at least. Now, some of the bigger plans was great, right? They would like to see a community center. Maybe there's an opportunity in the future that we can raise money to purchase a vacated building to do that, but I think that would be on a long term. There was, nice things to have, like, can we bring a doctor's office in town? Can we get more churches in town? Things that we really can't control. But I think if we go through the beautification of the city, we're trying to do something from 9090 to 3rd Street, that will start to entice businesses to want to come in and relocate. The other part, of course, was safe walking. So we already talked about like 9090. We already began the engagement this year, thanks to Public Works as well. And you can see it all over town. The sidewalks are being replaced and repaired. That's an awesome thing. Obviously, we've got some issues that we're going to be discussing today. But again, so those are getting improved. So the question might be, what else can the city do for the areas that don't have sidewalks today? What can we do? What can we continue to improve? I mean, the grant that we got for the sidewalks down 3rd Street to A Street and then up A Street were absolutely fantastic. Those sidewalks are great, nice to have. I mean, what else can we do in the future to do more like that would be great as well. That was my general takeaways. Of course, the other part that comes down to the revitalization of 3rd Street or the business district is also trying to keep the businesses in town. There are, businesses that are at risk because there's nothing in the traffic needed to generate the revenue to stay where they are. So we need to keep that in mind as well. So for me, what I took away, what I would really like to see us do is how can we, beautify 9090? How can we revitalize our business district from 9090 up 3rd Street? And then the other one is, the safe passages still. What can we do for sidewalks, amenities, lighting, things to encourage everyone to get out more? I think in terms of events, our city staff has already done a fantastic job lining up some great ones for this summer. It'll be great to see how that's going to work, the movie nights, et cetera. So those are my takeaways. I'd love for discussion from the rest of council though. Your thoughts, your ideas. Any choosers first?
Yeah, I'll go off, take off first here. So let's talk about 99 and safety there. We spend some ideas that have been put out in the past that we have not been able to complete. One of them is there on 99 and A Street, put in a pork chop turn lane, a little bit of so that way you can get the car going northbound on 99 out of the lane of traffic and kind of like a median strip there and allow traffic to continue on. So that would be one thing that we could go, address with ODOT, see if they have any monies or go with that as a safety issue, saying, we have a lot of car accidents in Hubbard. This would be one of the safety measures to improve traffic flow. When we put in the sidewalk on the east side of 99 there from I think it's Space Age now, up the north end of town, down to basically the Hubbard Market area. The idea there was we had people that were, using the shoulder of 99 for pushing baby carriages and baskets of clothing and stuff like that. And when we did that, that was quite eye-opening, as in what are the standards when it comes to putting sidewalks in along ODOT controlled roads. And so the cost of that just spiraled out of control. We fought with that for about 6 months before we came up with And so the Cadillac, we bought the Chevy-ish, like quality of sidewalk, but it's great. It's gonna last for, 20, 30, 50 years for what we got out of that. It was actually a really good deal eventually. So that's, it would be nice to, if we're gonna put in a pork chop on the street, let's go ahead and put in a flashing crossing light or, an island out there, of safety for when somebody's kind of crossing right there. They can get across one lane and hopefully get across the other one. I know, up the north end of town there, we got that, the mobile home courts, and they're always trying to get across to the space age now, gas station to buy goodies. And today, I was watching people dodge traffic as I was trying to get up to that gas station. So that's definitely a little dangerous. And I admit, it's a long walk all the way down, cross the street at the light, and walk all the way back up. Or there's not even a sidewalk on the west side there. But yeah, those are things I think we need to work with ODOT over. We had a city council that was kind of against expanding 99 here, but maybe we need to put in 4 lanes to each direction with the turn lane. Maybe we need to look at that and see if there's any money out there for that. I think that would be a positive thing safety-wise. Yes, it kind of splits Hubbard in half. Makes it difficult for the west and east sides to communicate. But in terms of safety, I think that would probably be a good thing to go to ODOT and say, hey, is there monies for this? And can we get grants for this? What's the cost share on this? So when it comes to the 99 East safety, I think there's a lot of areas we can kind of go down that route with. Since that was kind of the last thing I caught there. I was kind of looking through this fantastic piece of this publication they put together for our vision. I did notice though on page 13 they were using an old map and they're pointing to a community node, big green area where we actually have a housing development. It's not that big. Other things that are going on there. So, livability issues in Hubbard. The other thing I was kind of looking at is, there's a lot of people that like, walking paths. So a while back, Jan LaFollette, she's, was a big parks proponent for a long time here. Unfortunately, she's passed away now. And we named the parks after her. She was wanting trails to go all the way out to the school system. And so, if we can move that forward, we just need to go from, Mineral Springs Road up to the Jan Hall Park. That would actually make a good biking loop in there. It shouldn't cost a lot of money. I mean, there's grants out there available, which we've looked at in the past to do this. And they were looking for what they call more community support. Basically, they're looking at cost shares at that time. I got involved in that for a while. But I mean, that's just a little short piece and it would, give people a chance to do that. Now, we did get a lot of pushback from the farmers who are looking to get going all the way out to the school system. They didn't want a bunch of kids, running to their farmlands. But if we can just do our little section here, I think that would go a long ways towards, livability and exercise and stuff like that. So that's kind of one area that there should be a low cost to entry and getting something done there. When we come to businesses and bringing businesses into town, businesses that we have lost, that we used to have here. We used to have our own auto store. It's now an auto repair shop. We used to have our own, you go in there, you can get yourself, a starter solenoid or brake pads or whatever. And I was there in there all the time buying parts for my car. We also used to have a hobby shop. I don't know if you go around to a hobby shop, but it's basically about 1/4 of the American market on the south end. There was actually a hobby shop, and you go and buy, model cars and stuff like that. And they had wheels and copper piping and all kinds of cool stuff. Used to have a motorcycle repair shop just down here on the south end of town. They've since gone out of business. We have an auto electric repair shop. I think the building's empty right now over here where the automotive and the Liberty Safe Place is at. So we also had the possibility of bringing in some antique stores and kind of piggyback on what Aurora does. And that's why we have this right across from A Street there on the other side we have all this building with all this nice flagstone on it. That was actually supposed to be a antique store, a large one. Well, the antique store did move in, and then the outfit with the construction, whatever outfit that's in there now, moved in. So, but these are businesses that were looking, that were either here and we've lost, or looking at, coming in here. Now, admittedly, you're not buying your groceries at these stores, but we have these stores here. And I've since lost them. So another point of view on this is many years ago when I was getting ready to retire out of the Navy, I had shown interest in purchasing a business in Oak Ridge, Oregon. That's where I grew up as a teenager. I think for 10 years I got calls from somebody in the city looking for me to, well, come on up, let's talk. Obviously, I didn't move to Oak Ridge and buy a business up there, but I mean, they kept after me for a long time. So if we can do some sort of, business promotion that way, if somebody shows interest, let's see if we can get them to come into Hubbard. So I mean, that's a strong thing that we can do. Doesn't take a lot of time. Somebody shows interest, putting in some business here. Let's call them up. Let's see if they are interested in coming. Let's kind of go through a few smaller items here. One of the weaknesses listed in this report is the city looks neglected. Well, obviously, we're improving sidewalks. We're fixing streets. We are definitely going the right direction on that. We're doing the contract with police and services. We got some stuff going on in that area. Thank you very much. So I think we're kind of going in the right direction, but there's other areas that we can kind of work on, especially that 99 safety corridor. I think that there's sometimes they can get a special designation as a safety corridor, and that might be something that we want to look at. I don't know if that improves our financing in that area, but if we can get covered, designated as a safety corridor, I know there's more traffic restrictions involved, and so hopefully to reduce our traffic accidents, and there could be money involved in that as well to make these improvements. So that's a big part of my take on that. And if I can sit at home and make a few phone calls and lobby some people for stuff like that, I do have some free time that I can do from home. So,
Okay, Councilor Steiner, what do you think?
I think I was at probably half of the planning events also, and I'm really just going through it. I'm really excited about just the opportunities we have to continue what's been going on. I think council's done a great job before I started, and I'm really just excited to see us continue to move forward. A lot of the things that are going on, the water improvement, the sewer improvement, the pickleball court, the dog park, I mean, those things, I think we need to continue to see those progress, and that's going to help encourage people to see that we are doing stuff. I know it's years in the making, so I think we're right at the point where people are going to start noticing now, and that's really exciting. I love the idea of a community center. I know that takes a lot of funding and figuring out all the details, but I think that would be a really cool thing. And I do agree, walking down 99E is scary, especially at night in the dark. I go out just for walks, call people and stuff, and it's like just walking around, you get to 99E and it gets pretty sketchy until you get to the sidewalk and the crosswalk. And even walking down, 'cause I've got friends and family down across the state's age and just trying to cross down there, it's like, I feel it's scary for anybody, little kids or anybody that's going across there. So I would love to make that a priority for sure. Otherwise, yeah, everything, I mean, a lot of what you're saying, just trying to focus on how can we encourage businesses to come in and maybe something like a restaurant, like a fresh food restaurant supply store, I think would be really cool. Just that we could also serve the community, not just restaurants, but like have a small deli where you get fresh food to eat. Like, I think that would actually possibly work here. So those are just some ideas that I had, but otherwise, I think we can use this community assessment and go really far with it.
Councilor Thomas?
From a goal setting perspective, if we're looking at this at a macro level, I think there's three buckets. The first one's infrastructure and safety, right? We need sidewalks, we need streets, we need water that works, we need wastewater, and we need people to be able to get around. The second thing would be, that would start attracting businesses, right? If our town looks good, everything works, people can get around, businesses are gonna wanna come into town. So I think that's important. Then that would also drive people wanting to build, right? Developers wanting to build subdivisions, that's gonna increase tax revenue, it's gonna increase revenues to the city. And then the third bucket, there would be amenities. If we can do those first two things properly, we will have the money for the amenities of walking trails, et cetera, right? So for me, those are the three things. Let's get the first one right. Let's get streets, sewer, water, sidewalks. Let's work on that so it looks good, get businesses here, drive revenue that way. I think those would be the three buckets for me.
Okay, Councilor Rogers?
So as a point of clarification, we talk 99E, that's open. It's like we put 80% of what we talked about on 99E, which is only going to be about 10% of what we can get. Because we can't do much without ODOT.
Right.
So we should not be focusing. I mean, yes, anything we can do to help 99E is kind of its own, like you said, in its own bucket. The rest of it we can do that we have control of in our own town is what we have been pushing for the last few years. We want to do projects that everybody sees being done. And so that has, for about the last 6 or 7 years, the council's focus was putting in sidewalks and fixing sidewalks and doing what the citizens see being done with the taxpayers' money. So, yes, I agree. 99E, but 99E is its own entity. We can only ask so much. I mean, all night, all ODOT roads seem to be crumbling and everybody wants a piece of that pie. So until they get a bigger chunk of pie to give away, our hands are tied. But what I do like is getting some of those sidewalks fixed. I had people comment today that really appreciate how nice the sidewalks have gotten that were recently done on their walks to the post office. We've been pushing to get that post office walk for years, and it's finally coming to fruition. So we, as a focus group, need to continue on what can we do as a council, and I think that's what our push is going to be. What can we do that's within our bounds? Because I think 99E is 99E again. There's only, we can beg and plead so much. So, cleaning up, getting the parks, I mean, everything is right on target to what I believe the majority of our residents want to see happen and want to see us progressively improving the city without improper taxation.
And I completely agree. I think one of the things that, I mean, council can continue to set the priority of improving 99E, which, okay, that's a priority and that's something that staff can continue to work on. We can leverage elected officials to make phone calls. We can have conversations with Marion County commissioners, with the legislature, with the governor's office. So we can make that a priority as far as communication. Forcing them to get anything done, we don't have control over that. I do want to let you know they have been surveying out there for sidewalks. Last I heard, they didn't have all the funding for it, but at least something's happening. So I'm encouraged there.
Yeah, in terms of ODOT, it's gonna be the squeaky wheel. And that's something where Administrator Wade, myself, even every time we get a chance to talk with ODOT, we're bringing up the exact same thing repeatedly over and over. we're not gonna see an expansion of 99E. They will tell us they're broke on that, but we could push the public safety side for a sidewalk if required.
And, you know, walking paths and stuff are great. You know, I remember talking about that walking path to school. And my concern was kids getting down there and nobody sees what's happening. I think for crime wise, I know Canby put in a bunch of walking paths for all their neighborhoods. And so when you wanted to commit a crime, you just walk down the walking paths. You did your theft and you go right on to the next neighborhood and boom, you're gone. There were easy escape routes. I know that was a big deal, 10, 15 years ago. They were like, well, we put in all these escape routes. We cannot monitor it. So,
That is a big thing. I love the idea of, I think it was called the Mineral Springs Path. I love the idea, but I do know that the farmers aren't happy about it. And once you get outside the city limits, Marion County isn't excited about that because they don't know how it can be controlled or monitored. But it is a fantastic idea, and I brought it up actually. That's one of the ones we brought up to our congresswoman's rep as well, is something that to allow safe passage between here and school. I don't know how it's going to happen in the end, but it's not just from here to our school district, but the school district to Donald, the school district to Aurora. Like, how do kids get up there? Right now we see them walking down from the school. But again, that entails getting ODOT again back involved and county, and those conversations are happening just very slowly. So what I'm hearing in terms of general is continue on with the infrastructure as a priority. That is still a work in progress. Staff water pressure, wastewater treatment plant, sidewalks, still a priority. Keeping our parks clean and updated, still a priority, But I didn't hear, I heard it on and off, commercial district revitalization. And I use the term 99 to 3rd Street because that's kind of the commercial district. General, what does council think on that? I would still like to see us as a city have a priority in trying to encourage active development on that commercial district in one way or another. Do we set up a district that allows us to raise funds for that? How do we bring businesses in, et cetera? Right now, businesses come and go. And as you said, we've had a lot in the past, they come and go. I don't want to see some of the ones we have now leave because they can't get the foot traffic. So the question is, how do we encourage it? And hopefully not the welcome to historic, that sign on 99E that's slightly askew. That drives me crazy. Besides the point, don't mean to raffle on that one. But I mean, is there general consensus from the city council that we would like to see the commercial district continue revitalization? So there you go, Sean, the Mr. to wait. There's kind of another one. And again, we've already mentioned the safe pathways as well as wherever it might be, the sidewalks. We need to continue investing in sidewalks of the streets, continuing to work with our residents to get sidewalks improved, and see where we can put in more to continue making. Like one day it'd be wonderful to be able to walk all the way around Hubbard on the sidewalk without ever having to get onto the local streets. Now, for city staff, is that enough for a priority? I mean, there's a laundry list in the visioning thing, but I think what you're hearing, and I agree with Councilor Thomas and Audrey, is what can we realistically do, and then what's a wish list?
So, well, I think 99E is a wish list, except for potentially the right-of-way areas. We could do some beautification in those areas. I definitely think that we can look at 99E to 3rd and start really pushing economic development. I do get phone calls frequently from people that want to move their business to Hubbard. I mean, we're an ideal location on 99 close to I-5. So it's just a matter of, people that own the buildings being willing to sell them or own the property, be willing to lease them, and whatever that looks like. So that's something that I can start, if that's a priority of council, I can really start pushing on development.
Yes, I think you'd see that. I think most people in Hubbard would like to see some sort of amenities that they can go down to and enjoy without having to leave the city.
Okay.
Plus, more businesses here, the more people get drawn in, then the other businesses can benefit as well.
And as far as the park cleanup, I mean, that's really, we weren't fully staffed last summer. We are staffed, well, we're gonna be down one. One of our, team members, is having a baby, so they're gonna be out on, leave, but we will step up. We'll make sure that the parks are taken care of and clean. I really think that part of and I'd really like to think of it as not just like clean parks, but beautification of our entire city. So making sure our greenways are mowed, making sure weed abatement's done, not just in our parks, but in our city. So I think that those are high level priorities that can easily be achieved. When we talk about replacement of playground equipment, that's really expensive. And so we'll apply for grants as we can, and hopefully get some funding to replace those. But I think at a high level, there are a lot of things that are achievable to make Hubbard, look good and attractive.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully this helps you at least from a goal setting perspective as we move into the next fiscal year budget plan.
Yes, and I'll come back in May with the priorities and then also some projects listed underneath that so that you guys have a list to be able to manage our performance against as well.
Wonderful. And I do want to thank the community members that did participate in it, whether they were on the committee that was leading this effort or actively participating. I know some are actually in the audience here. Your feedback was greatly appreciated because without it, we are going to be an echo chamber, you know, talking what we think is nice for the smaller audience that we will respond to. So thank you.
Thank
you. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and close out the working session on goal setting and
Can I just add a couple of cents here in that I have a couple of very specific things for public works, kind of maybe ask them and maybe put that on the list is the Winchester Park, the merry-go-round. I don't know if you have any industrial strength lubricant for the merry-go-round, but it doesn't move very well. So, and we're coming into spring, kids are gonna be wanting to play on it and stuff like that. So I don't know if there's something you can do about that. And then also when we're putting in this dog park, this is more for the council. Can we put a couple of picnic tables out there? Just put in the dog park, you know, people hang out with their pets and put in like 3 or 4 picnic tables. I don't know how much they cost. I mean, it shouldn't be a huge expense to do that.
I think they need to be a little bit industrialized because they can't be the cheap ones that just break, because kids will break it.
And a big chunk of cement to set them in or just pat it down to. But yeah, maybe that's something we can look at this in the next, when we start setting that up. I don't think there's any money able to make that right away, but that would be something that I would be interested in if I was over there. So.
Absolutely.
Simple minutes. Okay. If that, let's go ahead and move on to our regularly scheduled meeting. Yeah, go ahead. Actually, does anyone need a quick break real quick? If not, we'll just keep moving on real quick. In terms of the consent agenda, we do have one added consent agenda to the agenda. Does everyone have that in front of them? Should be 11E. Right here. Just want to make sure everyone saw that. And I want to go around and ask if there's any consent agenda topics that need to be pulled out for regular approval or discussion. I'll start with Councilor Rogers.
I have none.
Okay. Councilor Simon?
I do not.
Councilor Young?
I do not.
Okay. I don't either. I don't believe Councilor Thomas does either. So we'll go ahead and leave it as is. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on. The first one is for our regular meeting is the appeal of the major variance. Rodulopu, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, so my greatest apologies on that. And Maria on 3664 5th Street. We do have a packet in front of us on that, so I will. Okay, and Holly, you're on. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and move us into the public hearing. So I have a script to read here, then we'll hand it over to our city planner. So good evening. My name is Charles Roxasel. I am the mayor of the city of Hubbard. I will be presiding over this appeal hearing. This is the time and place set forth for the hearing in the matter of file appeal 2024-01, an appeal to the planning commission's decision on a major variance number VAR 202301 for a property located at 3664 5th Street in Hubbard. The hearing is now open. It is 7:13 PM. Oregon land use law requires several items to be read into the record at the beginning of every public hearing. The city planner will review this material. Your patience is greatly appreciated as she goes through these statements. And with that, City Planner Byram, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
I come across nice and clear.
Great. The applicable substantive criteria upon which this case will be decided are found in the Hubbard Development Code and will be reviewed in the staff report. Pursuant to HDC 3.204.03, review by City Council Sub A, review on record, the City Council's review of an appeal on an action by the Planning Commission shall be confined to the record of the initial proceeding. Parties with standing may offer testimony regarding alleged errors in the Planning Commission action. All testimony and evidence received during this public hearing must be directed toward the approval criteria or to such other rule, law, regulation, or policy which you believe to apply to this case. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised no later than the close of the record at or following the final evidentiary hearing on this case. Such issues shall be raised with and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford this body and the parties to this hearing an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. This public hearing will proceed with the staff report and any other comments from governmental agencies in attendance, followed by the appellant and any other parties who establish standing by submitting testimony during the initial Planning Commission public hearing. Finally, the applicant will be entitled to a rebuttal period. Please state your name, physical address, and mailing address clearly for the record before your comments. If you have documents, maps, or letters that you wish to have considered by this body, they must be formally placed in the record of this proceeding by submitting them to city staff. Thank you.
Okay, so with that out of the way, I need to ask the audience and the city councilors a few questions. First one is, does any member of the audience have any objections to the notice that was provided? Okay, hearing no feedback, I'll move on to the next one. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the city council to hear this matter? Okay, does any member of the city council wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias?
No, I'm aware of.
No.
Okay, and I'm none either. Does any member of the city council wish to report any site visits or ex parte contacts?
Walking by.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's a site visit. I mean, I have visited the property, so I have seen it in person.
I've walked and driven by, so.
Right, I mean, driving by counts.
Yeah.
Down Fifth Street.
Yeah, but I have not spoken with homeowner on the property. No.
I can see the property from my house.
Yeah.
And driven by it on many occasions this week. So, no, yes, I have been there, inadvertently. That's just where the property is from where I live at. So, yes,
Okay.
I have been.
But we live in a small city. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the impartiality or ex parte disclosures of any of the members of the city council? Basically, I think on that one, is there any concern? Okay. With that, I will hand it back over to the city planner, Holly Bryan, to please give the staff report.
Okay, for the record, my name is Holly Byram and I work for the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. My role as your contract city planner is to help the Planning Commission understand the information in front of you this evening. Land use hearings are a little bit different than the typical business of city council. And so I'll make sure that we understand the criteria. So this is an appeal hearing to a Planning Commission decision. The Planning Commission typically takes care of most of the business of the land use applications that come to City Hall. Occasionally, a few come through to the City Council, and so I know that it's been a while, so I'll try to make sure that you have the information you need this evening. The appeal application in front of you is an appeal to a decision made by the Planning Commission on a major variance. And this deals with a driveway accessing a residential property in the R1 zone. This is a driveway that was actually already permitted and constructed. And the nature of the appeal is actually the Planning Commission appealed a portion of the variance request, and the applicant is here this evening hoping that the City Council will grant their full variance request. And so that is addressed in the staff report in front of you. Just as a reminder, a major variance is a type 2 application, and so the Planning Commission decision was typically the final decision unless it's appealed to the City Council. Within the staff report, I've indicated the location of the property, and then on page 3 of the staff report is a picture of the driveway. This was captured by Google Street View this last summer. And then you'll also see a site plan submitted by the applicant. I'm going to try to give a high-level overview here, keep it quick. I know you have a full agenda this evening. In the first part of the staff report, I've tried to provide the City Council some definitions. Your Hubbard Development Code does not specifically define driveway. It does define several other things, one of which is a parking space. And in that definition of a parking space, it distinguishes between the parking space and the maneuvering, accessing, and driveway surfaces. And so in that definition, it separates the two. And then there's also a definition for front yard, and that is essentially the full front part of the property from the plane of the house to the property line. The issue before us this evening is a standard that I've included on page 5, and that is within the Hubbard Development Code. It's 2.401.10. There's a standard that says that no parking is allowed in a front yard, and that says exclusive of driveways. And the question before the Planning Commission was, the applicant has an existing single-family home without a garage. There's about 15 feet between the side of the house and the property line. That wasn't a great deal of parking available to the applicant. Your city code actually requires a house to have a garage or a carport, but this is an existing dwelling. I think it was built in 1942, so there's no garage. Your development code requires a house to have 2 parking spaces. The applicant couldn't get that side by side in that 15-foot area. So the applicant requested a variance to allow some of their parking and driveway in their front yard to overlap the front of the house because there is no garage to park in front of. And so the variance request was for 21-foot overlap in front of the house. So you'd have a 15-foot driveway width plus a 21-foot width equals 36 feet total. And that complied with the public works standards, and that was permitted and constructed. The issue is this is a pretty unusual circumstance where there's no garage, and so the parking is in front of the house in the front yard. Staff's recommendation to the Planning Commission was that they do allow a partial variance to allow the applicant to at least meet the minimum off-street parking standard for a house, and that is 2 vehicles. And so the Planning Commission's motion ultimately was to approve a variance allowing for a 20-foot wide driveway. So that would get 2 vehicles side by side. So the Planning Commission approved part, but not all of the variance request. Included in this staff report, I've included your variance decision criteria as well as some findings. And essentially for a variance request, an applicant is obligated to demonstrate that they have a unique or unusual circumstance. In this case, staff agreed that there is a unique circumstance, and that is that there is a historic house that limits the off-street parking. And so staff did support a partial variance there to give them some relief to that built situation. Let's see here. I'm happy to answer any additional questions. I think it's important to acknowledge that this land use decision pertains only to the nature of allowing parking and the driveway to overlap the front of the house. This land use decision does not address the construction within the public right-of-way. So we're not talking about the type of concrete or the way the driveway shoulder was constructed. That's a separate issue, and that's addressed under a public works permit. And so this evening, you'll hear from the applicant and his experience. But in his appeal application, you'll note that he states that he believes that he performed his due diligence, that he reached out to the city for review and permitting, and he was approved. And so that is why he constructed the driveway to the full 36-foot width. In the staff report, you'll also see a statement from the city attorney. And the city attorney offers a little more guidance about how when he reads the code sections, he believes that the only improvements allowed in the front yard is the driveway and that parking would not be allowed without a variance. And so in the conclusion of the staff report there, the staff and planning commission supported a variance approval for the applicant allowing for 2 vehicles. So that is approximately a 20-foot wide driveway. There are a couple conditions of approval attached to that, and those are at the top of page 12. And those are simply that they follow the permitting procedures by the Hubbard Public Works Department, the construction standards, and then also the expiration of the approval date in there. So this evening, the City Council will hear from the applicant and any other people who established standing during the initial hearing. This evening is not starting all over with the review, rather it's identifying if there was an error made by the Planning Commission in their decision and their findings. So this evening, the City Council can uphold the Planning Commission decision. They can revise the Planning Commission decision. They can deny the applicant completely, or there is an option to continue the public hearing. I will note that the state provides a 120-day deadline for a local decision, and we are up against that deadline. And so the only way that this public hearing can be continued this evening is if the applicants consent to extending that deadline by another 30 days. So I just wanted to make sure and note that this evening. Attached to the staff report, you'll see the appeal application made by the appellant, as well as the public works permit and the initial variance application as well. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do encourage you to hear from any other staff in attendance this evening. They are the experts. So that's it from me, unless there are any questions immediately from the council.
Any questions, council, for City Planner Meyer?
And then
Okay, with that, okay. Are there any questions of staff of the City Council before we continue and accept testimony? Councilor Robert? Councilor Thomas? Councilor Stein? Councilor Young?
I have none.
Okay, with that, I will now accept testimony regarding this case. Appellant, or those who are appealing presentation, would the appellant of those who are appealing or their representatives like to speak?
What was that?
Do you want to, whoever's appealing?
Yeah, well, I would speak,
Yeah.
but I would like to hear whoever's here to talk first, then I'll put out what I'm gonna say.
Okay, let's go ahead. Other parties with standing, when any other parties who establish standing during the preliminary planning commission hearing like to address and identify the errors made by the planning commission on their decisions of this case? Basically, okay. The problem we're gonna run into though is at this point, we're looking for a rebuttal. So what's happening here is we would like you to speak. so that if someone was to come up and speak again, you have an opportunity to rebut.
Okay. All right. So vote for Yano 3664 Fifth Street, Hubbard, Oregon. When I started this whole process, I put in my paperwork and I put in a proposal for a driveway. And in that proposal, the city actually kicked it back to me because I had set it at over, and I think it was 40 feet. They had one opportunity at that point to change things. They kicked it back to me and they said, the widest you can go is 36. They reviewed it again. They came out and did my pre-inspection pour. They allowed me to pour. That's the third review they could have done. I did everything they asked, and this is really uncalled for. And I know that they're trying to do their job, and I know the city's wording and everything doesn't work, you know. I know that the city, the Public Works, with their paperwork and their guidelines don't match up with variances in town. With what you guys have here at City Hall. But that's not my fault. I put in my paperwork, they had multiple times to change it and fix it. And I spent all that money. And now I'm here because I have a neighbor who's unhappy. And he's talking about fairness. At the commissioner plan meeting that we had, they allowed me 20 feet. He has a 2-car garage that's across from my driveway at 27 feet in width. And I went around town and I took pictures and measurements of other driveways with 2-car garages. And I'm gonna tell you that a lot of the ones that are there, if you want to look at the pictures, are 32 feet wide. And on top of that, I even found where people are actually parking in front of their houses. There's pictures there also of all that. And I found houses that don't even have a front yard. It's all paved. And I'm getting singled out for doing everything I was asked to. I comply with everything. Up to this point, I've done everything. I've jumped through every single hoop. I am not being treated fairly. He thinks he's unfair because he has to jump through hoops and pay for permitting and everything. I did the same thing. I paid those dues. And the moment that I put in my paperwork and they kicked it back to me, they should have caught all that. And then in my paperwork, it states completely, it says proposed driveway. So at that moment, the moment they signed off on that, that should not be considered a front yard. Because they signed off on it. And if they didn't go through everything that they had to go through with the commissioners, because the commissioners said in the last meeting, they said, why is this the first time we see this? That's not my fault. But they want me to eat this cost. I poured a nice driveway, but I can only look at it. Where's the sense in that? I think what's happening here is very uncalled for, and honestly, I think the city's sitting below the belt with all this that they're throwing at me. Because I did everything that I was asked. And it really bugs me that other people Just because they're unhappy, put me in this situation and my family through this situation because they didn't like it. They don't have to like it. It's my land. I paid for it. They didn't pay a dime for it. Just like whatever they do with their land. I'm not gonna tell them what to do with their land. That's their land. If that's the way he likes it, I'm all for it. And by the way, I got nothing against this property. You know why? Because it looks beautiful. I ain't gonna say nothing. I know you guys live around here and you guys have seen where that house was and where it's at now. That was an eyesore. And I got over $400,000 in that house. And I paid for every permit. I paid for everything. I jumped through Marion counties. Everything Marion County threw at me, I jumped through everything Hubbard threw at me. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I had no issues with Marion County until this. The first thing I dealt with Hubbard and I ran into this. I think the city of Hubbard and Public Works really need to figure out so it doesn't happen again. Because honestly, 2 houses down on the across the street from my house, they just poured a driveway exactly like mine. It has the side parking just like mine, and it goes into the front of the house. It looks like they used to have it looks like they used to have a garage there, but they got rid of it. Now they're using it as parking. But they did the same thing. They poured an overlap in the front yard. Are they gonna run into this issue too? I'm not coming at them because honestly, that's their land. They can do what they want. If they're happy with it, that's them. But don't penalize me and make me just have something just to look at because I did everything I was asked. You know, I don't know if you guys know how much stamp painted concrete costs. Twice as much as painting brush. If I would have known this, I would have just poured it brushed and then maybe I wouldn't have cared so much, but no, I got a lot of money in that driveway. And I feel like I'm getting singled out. It's like, what? I'm trying to do something nice. My family's been here since '63. My family's been longer here than his family. We literally own that whole city block. And some of the houses around it with my whole family. And I don't know, I just think that everything that's happened here is really uncalled for. And I understand what the commissioners are trying to do and with their 20 feet or whatever, but if we're talking fairness, he has 27. People down the street have 32. That's a 2-car garage. I only use about 30 feet of my driveway and 6 of it is more of a walkway. And the other day I had a conversation with Sean Waite and she even told me, I don't ever park in front of my steps. So 20 feet, I think is not correct. I mean, I think I should be able to use it whenever I want, but I don't even use the whole thing. That's what I paid for it. That's what I asked. That's what they signed off on. And my house looks 100 times better than a lot of the houses that you saw in those pictures. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they had 3 chances to fix this and keep me from pouring it. It slipped by them 3 times. And now we're here. They had 3 chances to stop me from spending that money. And now they want me to eat the cost. And just look at it. I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Is there any other parties that would like to make a testimony or come up to speak now? Pretty much that's what the second one says.
I'm Matt Kidney, 3635 Fifth Street. First, I'll say that I absolutely agree that Mr. Ariano did an amazing job fixing up the house, except from this issue. This case highlights the blurred lines between land use on private property and city right-of-way permits. It's hard for many homeowners to make a distinction between these different kinds of permit applications. A good contractor certainly knows the difference. In this case, I warned the contractor of some of the issues pertaining to city code, and he dismissively stated that they had all of the necessary permits. That obviously wasn't the case. Public Works doesn't have the authority or ability to approve land use matters, and a right-of-way permit only covers work on city property. A right-of-way permit has nothing to do with land use on a private lot. And I think Holly alluded tonight that this was approved. There was never a land use approval, there was a right-of-way permit for city property. So I sympathize with the homeowner if he truly thought that a right-of-way permit meant he could create a parking lot in his front yard. It's unfortunate he's been put in this difficult position. However, not knowing the rules or laws doesn't make any of us exempt from following them. And the city is, if the city is to hold everyone to a standard, if the city is to hold anyone to a standard, they're going to have to hold everyone to a standard. I moved back to Hubbard in 1998 and bought a house in an R1 residential zone. That zone has certain standards, including 7,000 square foot minimum lot sizes. About 5 years after I bought my house, 2 homes were built across the street from me by the applicant's family. He stated that tonight. They owned the block. They were on substandard size lots for the zone, and I understood why. No problem. They were not required to put in sidewalks as most every other new construction has had to do, including myself. I had a problem with that. They also built single-car garages with narrow driveways. This was obviously not adequate to provide enough parking for the use of these 2 homes. And now through this process, the city is saying the standard is the double driveway. The applicant is saying the standard is the double driveway. I don't know how these 2 homes got by with a single driveway and a single garage then. This current project has stacked more cars lined up with what's already was a high density of bumpers and license plates. As a quick reference, a dense commercial zone like Walgreens would have 11 cars and 100 feet of frontage. That would be a commercial standard for a strip of parking. For the past 25 years, I've parked almost exclusively in my side and rear yard. The applicant has the opportunity to do the same on his corner lot. This is a broader issue than any person or any project in particular. This is about how the code is written and how we want Hubbard to look. The council, as the planning commission did, has to validate that the code is reasonable and enforceable. I believe that it is. This is not a commercial business or commercial zone. This is a residential front yard, and it's currently filled with cars. I don't know of any residential codes that allow this, and Hubbard's code does not seem to allow it either. I've sold many homes for the last 3 decades. The nicest neighborhoods that hold the best resale values do not have yards full of cars. The applicant has made note that it's none of my business and that I should mind my own business. I disagree. My property value is my business. My neighborhood is important to me. My community is important to me. And when I've done projects, I've had to put in sidewalks. I've had to comply. I've had to pay for land use decisions many times. I asked that the council uphold the planning commission decision. They already granted the applicant leniency by letting him widen the driveway beyond what was allowed per the code. And when a situation like the sidewalks get a, oops, we'll get it next time, we still have the mistake to look at for decades. Thank you.
Is there any additional testimony? Okay, this is where, again, you get to a chance of rebuttal if you so desire.
Again, I wasn't involved in the building of those houses. That was my grandfather's lot. But that went through the city also. That went through Marion County also. It passed everything. They were built. that's out of our hands. That, you know, we, at that point, everything was done to what was expected of us. Everything at this point was done from what was expected of us. That burden shouldn't fall on my shoulders because the city of Hubbard and Public Works and everything don't have their stuff together. And this is gonna continue happening if the city of Hubbard doesn't get their stuff together. But at this point, I feel like I did everything, and I feel like I should be able to use it because I paid for it. I went through all of City of Hubbard's stuff, and I got all the paperwork, and I did everything that they asked. And I should be able to use it. They allowed me to spend my money. Why not allow me to use it? That's not my fault. You know, building those two houses, like he said, with single garages, that's not my fault. I didn't even build those houses. And at the end of the day, I mean, it all comes down to Hubbard needs to get their stuff together. I mean, or else this is gonna continue happening. It's costing our, you know, all us residents money. Causing us a headache. Like, I've never had anything personal against him. I've never had anything, but I feel like it's personal. You know, like for me, to see the city of Hubbard getting fixed up and look nicer, that's all I was doing. I could have knocked the house down and built a new one. But instead, I wanted to keep this small town charm. By just fixing the house up that was built there by Betty's husband in 1942. You know, that is part of Hubbard. That is the face of Hubbard. You know, those little houses that are built around there, that is Hubbard. I mean, his house looks beautiful, but that's not Hubbard. Hubbard's always been a small town, and that's what's made Hubbard beautiful.
If you stay there, hold on, yeah, because next would be, does the city council have any questions for you? And what I'm gonna do is just go around and start with Councilor Rogers, any questions? Councilor Thomas?
No.
Councilor Simon?
I don't know if it'd be you or the employees, but did at any point somebody say you needed a land use permit or did you have a land use for a driveway there?
No, because that's what they should have gave me. That's what they should have told me when I did it.
Any additional questions, Councilor Simon? Councilor Elmore?
Yeah, when I put in the paperwork, all they said is that I had to fill out the paperwork for the proposal with City Public Works, and then City Public Works was gonna send it over to City Hall, and then once they signed it, then that was good. That's what was explained, that's what was told them. They didn't say I had to include any other paper.
Councilor Young?
So I was, kind of looking over the minutes of various meetings we've had and then your written statement here. One of the things that just kind of caught my eye, a particular one from the planning commission, the meeting minutes, February 20th, 2024. Your numbers that you stated, and this is just an issue here that I'm calling that, is you spent almost $100,000 for concrete and improved. And then later on, you had already spent the money and he doesn't have $50,000 just to go away. And then the most recent statement said it cost you $17,600. So is the $17,600?
No, that's the section they don't want me to park. So we started, you know, because I did pour more of a driveway down the side.
Yeah, and I like to work.
So we
Yeah.
itemized, you know, the section that they don't want me to park in. We itemized that and kind of just pulled down the cost.
So Paul, that part of it that is 17,600, that particular portion of it.
That they don't want me to park in, yeah, which is that, which comes down to like 16 feet by 20 feet.
That was kind of what it caught my eyes. So
Well,
I'm not sure.
At the end of the day, it's actually gonna be longer because I pulled all the way down the street, so it's, you know, that's 60 by 50.
Yeah, and we're not here to address that.
We're not here to address that one yet.
That'll
That's
be-
another issue, because right now they're telling me I can't park in 36 feet of it, but later we got another issue.
But right now, we're just talking about the width of the.
Yeah.
So,
But at the end of the day, when you combine them both, that's a lot.
okay, that was my primary question I had.
Okay. No additional questions there. Thank you for your testimony. I'm gonna go ahead and before I close or continue the public hearing, are there any additional questions from the city council of staff or anyone? As a reminder, once I close this part of the hearing, only councilors and staff may speak. So, Councilor Young, any additional questions to staff?
At this point, I do not.
Councilor Simon?
I do not.
Councilor Thomas?
No questions.
Councilor Rogers?
No questions.
Okay, with that, testimony is now over. I will close the public hearing at 7:49 PM. I will now entertain discussion on the appeal and or a motion. So with that, we are now open to council discussion here. Councilor Young?
Without a doubt, the gentleman has definitely done a ton of work over there, and the house looks really good. It's cleaned up the back of the property, absolutely has done a positive thing for the community, and I can definitely hear super frustration with somebody. I would have challenges in this situation if I was him as well. But, you know, and he has done a ton of work to definitely improve Hubbard. I would like to hear other comments from the rest of the council before I.
That's fine. Councilor Simon?
Yeah, I read through all this and just putting myself in the shoes. It's, I've always trying to figure out what permits are needed, what's not. I've always relied on the city to tell me what I need to do when I go in. And I don't see where that wasn't done. I have a hard time. I don't know, I guess that for me, I don't see why he should not be able to park in a driveway to the court. And I think he did do his due diligence for it, so. I don't know, everything else I can think of comes more down to the right of way on the street where I think the consideration's there, but as far as. I don't know, I just don't see where limiting what he does with the driveway at this point is something that he should do.
Councilor Thomas?
Agreed, this is an unfortunate situation. When he showed us the pictures, I think brings more questions than answers in play. Is there a standard? What is the standard? There are pictures in there that have gravel to the front door. There are pictures in there that have concrete all the way across. So what is the standard? And then do we retroactively go back? And how do we make everyone fit the standard? This, to me, it doesn't seem like there is a standard, right? I think there were errors made in this process by both parties. So it's a difficult and unfortunate situation.
Councilor Hodge?
Well, first, I appreciate both sides bringing this to our attention. When they brought it to our attention a few months ago, it did open up the council's eyes to issues that we should have been addressed many years prior. I'm not one that says, well, after the fact, we penalize the problem. It's usually something I look at as saying, okay, from this point forward, because obviously from the photos, this has been going on this point forward. and there's point forward, and there's point forward. So at some point, the city will have to update, correct these inconsistencies. And if so, we have to, and unfortunately, look at it for the next 40, 50 years. It should not fall on the backs of somebody who's tried to do everything right. When I poured my driveway, the city came out and measured, I had to cut it up and remove 6 inches. Somehow my contractor was 6 inches off. So they cut it and reported. But that was caught early on, which is something that in his case, if it wasn't caught early on, you can see going back at. So it's not just-
So my thoughts on this, number one, where do we eventually draw the line? When do we start enforcing what's being done? I can see the picture here. It is beautiful concrete work, I'm not gonna disagree with that. But it does overlap over 2/3 of the front of the house. So that is a concern. I can't go back and look at every house that's been sitting around forever, because this is new construction. I'm not talking about the right of way, that's something we can address later with the sidewalks, et cetera. But the real question here is, do we permit someone to park in front of their house? Regardless of mistakes being made. And if this is the case, then do we turn the blind eye to the next person that maybe goes through the hurdles as well? And then parks on their driveway, because they can do it, because they believe it's their right to do it. I do agree, this is an unfortunate amount of errors that happened in many areas. I do know city staff did go to this property the day before the court, asked the contractor if that was a driveway or not, and they were told it was going to be a porch or a patio. I don't know why that was said, but it was done. I think if it was told it was going to be a driveway, they would have had a stop work order that night. Either way, hold on, public testimony is closed. That being the case, the work was done. I can also hear the frustration coming from other rebuttals, in this case, from Mr. Kennedy. I can understand where his frustration comes through, because yes, he has gone through quite a lot of land use planning requirements, as well as his neighbor Lance down the street, just on rebuilding a garage. Some individuals seem to be given a pass, some individuals just decide to do it and hope for permission to be granted later. It doesn't make what's being done here any easier. I think what was recommended by the city was to allow them to have 21 feet to allow 2 cars to be able to park side by side, as a driveway should be. That's the variance that they put forward. So we, as a council, have the opportunity to now revisit that, and somewhere I've got it in front of me. Give me a moment. So the options we have before us today is to uphold the planning commission's decision, approve a partial 5-foot portion of the, for a total of 21-foot variance, which would require that some of the concrete be removed. I guess the question I might have for city staff here, does the concrete have to be removed, or can parking just not be permitted on said concrete and can be allowed to turn into a patio?
So, Mayor, Council, the concrete would not have to be removed, they just wouldn't be allowed to park.
Okay, so in this case, we're not asking him to be penalized for removing concrete, but the parking width will be specific. The rest will be considered patio at that point in time. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Other one is we can revise the planning commission's decision, approve the full 21-foot variance. That would be leave it as is today. There's C, we have a motion to revise the planning commission's decision as otherwise described by the city council. Adopt the findings and conditions of the approval contained in the staff report as revised. Basically, we can make a motion to decide what we want to do there. We can make a motion to revise the planning commission's decisions to deny any major variances, basically requiring them to go all the way back. Or a motion to continue the public hearing to a date and time not yet decided. As you can hear, though, we are already up on a timeline because we tried to allow this process to work itself out. With that, those are the options before us. I want to again offer councilors any additional questions for discussion?
So with this property, looking at the property maps and pictures and knowing the property that I drive by regularly. The house and the parking lot take up less than half of that lot. So is that lot dividable? Meaning if they decide to, down the road in 5 years, 10 years, decide to divide that lot and build a new house, now we have a driveway parking area that is 2/3 way across the front of the house and now further out of compliance with our court code, or, you know.
Yeah, it's gonna stipulate, I mean,
Well,
that's
I
speculation.
know that's speculation, but it's a rather large lot, and easily divided. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of land.
If I look at the plot map that's on page 2 of the staff report, you can see that the lot directly across from it on that same property is divided. But I believe where this current house is situated, it's probably right across that, so it can't be divided. It wouldn't, that's assumptions at this point in time.
Got the one that faces Fourth
Yeah,
Street,
you would have
that's
to-
divided, so yeah, those are,
It would drop below the minimum required.
well, hesitating, yes, it would be divided. But okay, I'm just kind of going through my thought processes and having to look at this for the next 10, 20, 50 years.
Okay, Councilor Steiner, any additional stuff?
No additional.
Councilor Otter?
I have a little bit. What's the maximum walkway up to the front door? That's sitting house, from the street to the front door? Is there a maximum set width?
I don't believe in the code there is. Because I can give you width on sidewalks, but not the paths in front door. I think that's up to the owner.
Because, you know, I'm looking at the Google photo. Probably on page what, page 3. And
Yes.
to some degree, it could look to me like that's a walkway up to the door. Not that it should be for parking, because it's a walk.
Which is where I had the clarifying question, are we asking to remove the concrete? No. Just be, can't park there. That's what I'm hearing. Please correct me if I'm wrong, city staff.
No, that's correct.
I mean, if there was planter boxes or something along there designating walkway, parking, i.e. turnaround or whatever we want to call that. I could see that happening.
Okay. Don't disagree with that. Councilor, anything else before we move on? Okay. Do we have anyone that would like to make a motion? What do we want to do here? Yeah. I can be the unpopular and make a motion. I don't mean to be,
I'll make a motion. Motion to revise the planning commission decisions is option B here. Motion to revise the planning commission decision to approve the full 21-foot variance requested with major variance file number DAR 2023-01 and adopt the findings and condition of the approval contained in the staff report as revised by the city council to state. The applicants performed their due diligence sufficiently to secure the driveway approval from the city public works department for the right of way permit. Staff should have directed the applicant to proceed with a variance application and request approval from the planning commission for the installation of the driveway and parking in front of the house. And I would also add that 5 foot of that on the north side be designated some way as a walkway to the house, whether that that be by planters or maybe a painted stripe on the pavement, something along those lines.
I think what you're asking though is actually A.
Yeah.
You're asking to uphold that they can only park on that part. We're not asking them to remove sidewalks.
Okay, so
B is allowing them to use the entire current area as a
okay,
driveway.
I apologize.
I just want to make sure you're aware of the motion you made.
The motion to uphold the planning commission decision to approve the partial 5-foot portion of the 21-foot variance requested with major variance file DAR 2023-01 and adopt the findings and conditions of the approval contained in the staff report as presented to the city council. That's the one. That's the motion. Make that motion.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That is correct. And I think,
My brain's going to. Is that correct?
go ahead.
So basically, you're saying that what the planning commission approved is what you agree with.
Which
Is, yes, because what you're saying is the planning commission did not instruct them to remove the concrete. They only park on a certain portion of the driveway.
There was no discussion about the parking piece of it.
So it needs to be.
The parking of this
That's what I was thinking.
Holly. Are you still there?
Yeah, she's getting on.
I'm still here.
Okay.
So the question specifically is if the planning commission addressed what was to become of the remaining piece that was not approved from the variance. Is that correct?
Right. The planning commission directed to be removed, or as I was asking staff, is it allowable to be kept as a walkway, just not be to be used for parking?
We can check the minutes and the recording, but my understanding was that the motion implied that it would be removed. Vicky, Sean, is that your understanding as well?
Yes, that's correct.
Page 2.
Yes, I believe so.
Page 2 is a summary of the last planning commission meeting.
Okay. So we don't have a second on that one right now, but I think what I'm hearing from Councilor Thomas real quick, and Colleen, you can please correct me if I'm wrong on this. On C, we can make a motion to revise the planning commission's decision as otherwise desired by the city council and adopt the finding and conditions of approval contained in the staff report as revised by the city council stating the desired revisions. So based off of C, if you were to use that motion, we make a motion that we will allow the variance for the parking at driveway to include the partial 5-foot section to allow a 21-foot variance, but still allow them to maintain the remaining as a walkway to be designated as a walkway for them.
So the council motion would be to uphold the planning commission decision to allow a 5-foot variance for a total of 20-foot parking, and the remainder of the existing driveway not approved for parking could be used as patio or walkway.
Exactly.
If that's what the city council directs, that would be a legitimate motion. Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. With that, then let me go ahead. And again, that's not 20 feet, it's 21 feet if the 5-foot partial is approved. So I would like to make a motion to revise the planning commission's decision as otherwise desired by the city council to approve the 5-foot, approve the partial 5-foot portion to a total of 21-foot variance on the major variance request, basically allowing a 21-foot parking area, to allow the homeowner to retain the poured stamped concrete that is still in there to be used as a patio and or as a walkway for them to approach their house. Does that work as a motion? Because that's pretty crazy and all over the place.
Just one point of clarification, if I may. The existing historic gravel driveway is only 15 feet wide. So the 15 feet plus a 5-foot variance would equal 20 feet in width for a driveway for 2 cars.
No,
16 feet.
yeah, still leaves 16 feet. Okay.
So
So
41 feet for driveway, parking, and then 5 feet. Oh. Sure.
Makes it a 30-foot line.
Total 36 feet.
So Mayor, Council, I'm getting a little confused because it is 36
6 feet.
wide
Oh,
total. So if you're saying 20 feet of that is gonna be parking, then the other 16 feet
will be patio and or walkway.
walkway, correct?
That's what I'm hearing.
That would be the, in the motion.
So I can restate it again.
And
So-
what, Counselor, Donnelly, how he made the motion and adding that was fine.
That was nice.
So,
So we can go back to Councilor Donnelly and you can make your motion again.
if I can remember how I can
Yeah,
forget.
we just want to make sure we're not screwing this
So,
up.
so let's make sure that I've got this right. So we're doing, the north part of the driveway, 5 foot as walkway patio, or we're doing 16 feet as walkway patio?
16.
It was 16.
16
Driveway.
Okay,
What we're doing here is defining where the parking can be done.
right.
The rest of the concrete,
I'm just
we're
making sure
sure
it's straight
can be
line.
used as a patio. as a lawn.
Anybody else wants to take it?
You want to?
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, he's got it.
All right, so we're going with
Let's see.
C. Okay, a motion to revise the planning commission's decision as otherwise desired by the city council and adopt the findings and condition of the approval contained in the staff report as revised by city council stating the desired revisions. So we're still going to keep the 20 feet total as 21 feet total as parking, the rest of it as patio walkway. And so that's the revised portion of that.
And in that revision, you had mentioned there needs to be a designation between the parking only and the patio walkway.
So there should be some designation in that as in, as simple as a painted line on the pavement or maybe some planters to designate patio walkway versus parking area. I really don't have to
Supposed
cut
to speak, but I get what you're saying, but that's gonna look like crap. It's just gonna be a big fair piece of concrete.
I'll leave it at that. That's where we're headed right now. We'll leave it to the homeowner of whether they want to try to make it decorative or if they want to remove the concrete will be up to you. At this point, we are offering you an option to maintain the concrete, not to have to incur the cost to remove it. It's a well poured, it looks good. That's where we're
I'm
going.
still incurring the cost. I just get to look at it, I don't get to use it.
The public hearing's already closed, so with that, we have the motion. Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is the motion clear to city staff?
Yeah.
Is the motion clear to Holly?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries with 4-1. Thank you all for your time on that. With that, I will have to close.
I'll see you guys in court.
The decision of the city council is final unless appealed to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA, following the appeal procedures provided by the notice of decisions, which will be mailed to all parties in this hearing. Thank you. With that, we will continue on with today's meeting. The next one is discussion regarding sidewalk repair and administrative weight. Do we have someone here for that, or is that just back to you?
I did not see, Senor Lopez here this evening. I can go ahead and speak to what the issue is though.
Go ahead.
So we have our sidewalk program. We notified Senor Lopez that he needed to replace the portion of his sidewalk in front of his house. His sidewalk actually leads nowhere. So It doesn't continue down Third either direction, so it's just a portion of his house. What he has asked is that we defer, the requirement for the repair until the city identifies a project in which we're gonna be extending the sidewalk, and then he'd be more than happy to replace the sidewalk at that time.
So this is the one where he put a sidewalk in, yeah, and it leads nowhere on either side, so no one's really gonna step on it, walk, trip, hurt themselves, and then,
Yeah, but he's more than happy to comply when the city moves forward with the sidewalk project on Third.
is there any concern from council on this?
How bad is the site? Is it an inch? Is it 6 inches? Is it all broken up? What's the actual condition?
So it's cracked. I would say it's not a significant trip issue. People do not walk there. They walk out in the street because again, that is the only section of sidewalk and usually there's cars parked everywhere else around that. So I'm not concerned about a safety issue.
You know, is there an injury issue with the city?
Yeah.
Lawsuits? So
This is one of those, it's one of the outliners that you asked. Councilor Stein, any concerns?
Well, I will say, I've tried really hard to walk on all the sidewalks, even when they're hard to get to. But I don't see any reason why you should have to before we get to that point.
Councilor Thompson? Councilor, okay, do you need a motion from us or you have direction from council? You're good to go.
Just direction from council.
Okay, the direction is, yes, I think until a later date when we're ready to get those sidewalks in.
Okay, thank you.
Next one, calendar of ordinances. We'll hand this back over to Administrator Wade.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Staff is requesting that Hubbard Municipal Code, Chapter 3.25 be repealed and approve staff to implement administrative policies and procedures as they relate to purchasing of goods and services to conduct city operations. As referenced in my staff report, City Council will remain the contract review board and intergovernmental agreements and contracts will be brought before council for approval before execution. The goal is to streamline the procurement process. Frequently, the legislature updates procurement thresholds, processes, and rules. This will provide the city administrator the ability to update our procedures and processes immediately and implement those thresholds. So we're in compliance with state law and governmental procurement processes. Additionally, grant application turnaround times are getting shorter, meaning that staff has very little time to fill out a grant application and get them submitted by the deadline. At times, waiting to seek city council approval during a council meeting can result in us missing that deadline. So staff is requesting that council provide direction in delegating myself authority to allow staff to apply for grants. However, grants would not be accepted until we presented them to city council so we can discuss the grant details and any matching fund requirements. And that's about it for what we're trying to do with this review.
So on this one makes perfect sense to me. 7 years ago, we already passed the ability for department heads to have a certain signature authority up to a certain level. And this just seems to streamline it. But with that, Councilor Conley, concerns, questions?
I have no concerns or no questions.
Councilor Stein?
I have no concerns.
Councilor Thompson? Councilor Aldridge?
No concerns.
With that, let's go ahead and move with A. Can I get a, go ahead?
I make a motion to read by title only, first reading.
Second.
Okay, ordinance number 387-2024, an ordinance repealing Hubbard Municipal Code, Chapter 3.25, public contracting rules.
Make a motion to read by title only for second reading.
I second.
Okay, ordinance number 387-2024, an ordinance repealing Hubbard Municipal Code, Chapter 3.25, public contracting rules.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 387-2024.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, ordinance passes unanimously. We'll move on to ordinance number 389-2024, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code and adding chapter 3.40, public safety fee, to establish a public safety fee.
So I'd like to put some context behind this. for our community. At the February 13th City Council meeting, staff presented a 5-year financial forecast that identified an approximate $300,000 general fund shortfall for fiscal year 2024-2025. The City Council directed staff to identify revenue options for council's consideration. At the March 12th City Council meeting, staff presented several revenue options for council's consideration, and one of those being a public safety fee that would be added to the utility bills. Implementation of a monthly $10 public safety fee is estimated to generate $137,000 annually. The overall impact on community members who pay utility bills will be $120 annually, or $10 a month. Additionally, staff is asking City Council, or staff was directed by City Council to evaluate the possibility of billing for utilities every month rather than every other month. Staff has completed the analysis and the process can be changed to billing monthly. This means utility bills will reflect usage for 1 month at a time, a $10 general services fee, and if adopted, a $10 public safety fee. Monthly billing would not take effect until the beginning of July. Staff will need to conduct community outreach, work with Cassell to program the financial system for billing monthly instead of bi-monthly, and finalize implementation plans with staff.
And just to be clear for everyone in here, the monthly bill does not mean it's 220 every month. It's breaking that bill up. Two benefits also come from that is we've had local residents who have actually had water leaks undetected for 2 months at a time because of in between billing cycles. This will allow us to detect those earlier and also hopefully try to make it a little bit easier so everyone can kind of get a better picture of when the bills are due. The other big part about the safety fee, because I have seen discussion on Facebook, social media, I just want to point out again, this is allowing us to both close a deficit that we've seen in our budgets. Obviously, things are getting more expensive, and also try to provide a more stable funding source to ensure that our police department is at least adequately funded moving forward, at least for now. So that's one of the reasons we're trying to do this now and not wait until we're in a crisis. So with that, general discussion on this or any other discussion or concerns from council, start with Councilor Yama.
So we have the last fee that we council put in place, which actually none of us were on council at that time, was about 10 years ago, and we had run into a similar situation where we were, looking at budget deficits, and we instituted the general services fee was instituted to cover a lot of that, which it did, and it did very fine. It's been doing really great for the last, I think it's about roughly 10 years. I don't remember the exact date it came in, but roughly 10 years ago is when we put that in place. Now, over the last 10 years, that dollar amount has eroded in cost. I mean, you've got inflation, and you take a look at your electric bill, and your residential electric bill goes up by 8%, and municipalities and businesses get a 16% increase in their electric bill. So you might see it on out of your pocket as a residential environment on the costs are going up, and for cities, Hubbard, it's going up even quicker. So that original $10 general service fee has significantly eroded over the last 10 years in value and what it can cover. So unfortunately, and I really hate to do this type of thing, but unfortunately, the city has to pay its bill. We got to keep the lights on, literally. We have to, have our wastewater taken care of. We need our police protection. We need this stuff as a community. We've done great on policing. 10 years ago, we used to be like number 1, 2, and 3 small city in the state of Oregon for several years running there. Unfortunately, due to COVID and defund the police and us not being able to hire in police officers, we kind of suffered in that area. But our police department still does a fantastic job. And we are rebuilding the force and we're doing a great job and we're back out there. But we need monies to be able to hire these police officers to keep literally the lights on due to this inflation. And it's a very unfortunate thing. And we all live in the city of Hubbard and we have to pay the same fees as the general public. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, Councilor Steiner?
I don't really have any comments.
Councilor Thomas?
Nothing to add.
Councilor Otter?
Will this affect the minimum usage people that maybe don't use the minimum amount in a 2-month billing cycle? Are we adjusting for that? Now,
Yeah, it'll divide in half.
and have, so,
Yeah.
6,000 gallon minimum, in 2 months, it'll go down to the 3,000.
Everything will divide in half, yeah.
Okay, with that, we have a motion for reading.
Make a motion to read by title only for first reading.
I second.
Okay, ordinance number 389-2024, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code and adding chapter 3.40, public safety fee to establish a public safety fee.
Make a motion to read by title only for second reading.
Okay,
Second.
ordinance number 389-2024, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code and adding chapter 3.40, public safety fee to establish a public safety fee.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 389-2024.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries unanimously. With that though, we do have another one on the bottom. Resolution number 773440, a resolution setting the amount of the public safety fee and authorize the mayor to sign May 9th, 2024, which is basically 30 days following the enactment of this ordinance.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 773-440.
I second.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Before we move on, is there any discussion from council on this? Any concern?
Second.
Basically, it would be the $10. Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Both ordinances and resolutions in place. Let's move this along. Appointment of the Budget Committee members. This is one vacant position, term January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026. We had one Budget Committee member who was unable to fulfill that office, so they went ahead and stepped aside. Thus, we have another vacancy. We have 2 candidates, Rocky Sherwood and Patrick Zadi. Patrick is actually here in the audience. Had a chance to speak with him as well. But with that, to move this along, I would just make a motion that we appoint Patrick Zadi to the vacant position term January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, welcome, Patrick. Moving along, appearances of interested citizens. We are going to change this process up a little bit this time. What we're going to be doing is Director Noble will invite the individual up to go ahead and speak, and we'll do the timing. Make sure that everyone has that equal time to stand. So with that.
Okay, this is an opportunity for members of the public to inform the council about their views. Note, the council will not be entering into a dialogue during this time. However, the city administrator may direct staff to follow up with you regarding your comment or questions. I did have an individual sign up, Anna Munson, if you are here.
How do I say?
Go ahead and go to the podium and say.
And you can put those on the table and everyone grab them on their way out.
Hi, my name's Anna Munson, and I'm here because I'm running for Marion County Clerk, and I wanted to introduce myself to the Hubbard City Council. The reason why I'm running is because I really feel that elections are important, and I'm wanting to make sure that they are not the divisive issue that they've been in the past, but that we can actually bring people together by helping them understand the election process, as well as return confidence and trust to the voters with elections. I feel that I want to help educate as well as inform. And if people have questions, they can come to the clerk's office and they can actually, I will listen, I will explain, or I can do whatever can do to help them to be more confident and have more trust in the elections that we have. Any questions?
Thank you.
I have more of these. If anybody wants them, just raise your hand.
Clerk roll, we have Matt.
Sure. Yep. You got three.
Kennedy, 36, what's that?
I'm sorry, I didn't think that I'd be a 3 minute one.
Well, not a 30-minute limit.
Right.
Kennedy, 36, 35 Fifth Street. So thank you for your consideration in making that decision. It's a difficult one, but I stepped out after the meeting to talk to Mr. Ariano. I tried to talk to him before the concrete was poured. I talked to staff before the concrete was poured. I still don't know how Public Works is making land use decisions. And staff told him that the only reason he was here is because a neighbor complained. It's pretty pathetic. Staff has been going around town and applying some consistency, but now I'm in the hot seat forever with my neighbor because I'm the asshole that turned him in, is costing him maybe an attorney and tearing out concrete. So this complaint-based system has its flaws. If I'm gonna be thrown under the bus by staff for talking about people that are not complying with the code, or if our staff doesn't know what the land use codes are, that's an issue that I hope gets addressed in short order, because I've been put in a really uncomfortable spot by being thrown under the bus when I warned staff about this in writing before the concrete is poured.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council?
Okay, if not, we will continue on with this late meeting. Next is going to be mayor and or council presentations. Do we have any from council?
I have a couple things.
Go ahead.
I heard some feedback about the dog park, about the location and the size were two of the concerns. I thought we had to just, pick a preliminary location to get the grant application, and that's what I relayed to individuals. But I think we should definitely do some more due diligence on the location and size, because I've heard some negativity about both of those. I don't know if anybody else heard anything.
No, not yet, but we can bring it up in the next council. The original grant request was, yes, a preliminary location just to get the grant put in.
And Mayor, Council, we haven't started community outreach yet. So that will be our next step, to reach out to our community members, and we just needed the preliminary okay
Right.
so that we can start that effort.
That's what I mentioned, but sometimes it doesn't go as you want it to.
Right.
Understood.
Never mind.
Councilor Rogers?
I just appreciate the communication about the closing of the railroad crossings those 2 days. Yeah, tomorrow being one of them,
And then,
and Friday being the next. So I appreciate you reaching out to me.
Councilor Gano?
Yeah, just kind of on the dog park possibility. Just another idea to throw out there. I understand that's a proposed location. Out at Barnsley Park, that northeast corner of Barnsley Park would be, I don't know, what might be another possible area to have a dog, and that it's a larger parking area. We get a lot more people over that, in that park. So that's just a thought, tossing it out there as another possibility. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, Councilor Snyder?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, the only thing I've got is appreciation for the Easter egg hunt, for everyone who was able to put that on. Turned out absolutely fabulous, and it's amazing when it's actually a clear day. And thank you, Public Works, for leaving the grass along so the kids can find the eggs. The other one is both administrator or city administrator Wade, myself, we've been meeting with quite a few different individuals, whether it's Marion County last month, Congresswoman Salinas this month, and open forums and so forth. So we are trying to bring our concerns of the city to anyone that will provide us an audience, especially ODOT. So we'll continue doing that as we move forward. I don't have anything else. With that, let's move on to the city administrator report out. We'll start off with Administrator Wade.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Attached to my packet is the March burn rate report. It reflects that the city is 75% through the fiscal year as of March. I have changed the report from previous months to exclude contingency and beginning fund balance. By doing this, the funds that are not structurally balanced become more evident in the report. Please note that in some cases, though, there was a decision made specifically to not be structurally balanced because we're focusing on one-time expenditures, for example, the tennis court refurbishing and other street projects, which is an appropriate budgeting methodology when we're working towards developing a budget. So also personnel costs continue to trend low due to vacancy in the police department. However, that vacancy is anticipated to be filled by June, which we're very excited to be able to announce our newest member. Materials and supplies expenditures in some areas may appear to be inflated, but that is because we paid our fourth quarter bills for Metcom and CIS, and those are very large bills. So total, they can throw off kind of the percentage of supply and material expenditures. That will stabilize by May, and I'll have a more accurate projection as to what our ending fund balance is going to be for this fiscal year. It is my intent that we will not be in a significant deficit as originally thought in general fund, just because we've had so many vacancies. So again, I'm still projecting a general fund shortfall for next fiscal year, not projecting quite so bad for this one because of the vacancy. A draft IGA has been completed with the city of Hubbard and city of Donald for police services. The mayors and myself and the city manager of Donald will be meeting on Thursday to have further discussions on the IGA. If those discussions go well, the IGA will be brought to council for discussion at the May meeting. Budget development with staff is wrapping up. I will be finalizing the city's proposed budget for the budget committee with the council goals and priorities in mind. And the budget committee calendar is included in the consent packet as well. I'd also like to provide some updates with some things that are getting organized for the movies in the park. So staff has contacted several businesses to see if they're interested in sponsoring the movies. The movies run anywhere from $475 to $500 per movie, so they're a little spendy. A screen has been ordered and should arrive this week. A projector has been identified. I'm still working on a sound system. Right now we're looking at mid-June for showing a movie, and also in August. We're skipping July because of the 4th of July and then also the Hops Festival. And additionally, we are working with the Hop Festival board on getting banners that will be put up along 3rd Street on those poles where we hang the Christmas decoration or holiday decorations. There's an example of what the banner is going to look like. So it is at the contractor's place now. They're working on them. The total cost was just under $250, and we're using grant funds left over from our community visioning project to fund these. And that wraps up.
How many of those?
So we only have 4 poles. We talked about potentially putting up another pole, and that's something that's kind of on our radar. Ideally, it would be kind of nice to have something, you know, year round on those to try and address that.
Can we hang them along 99E on those really nice light poles that we have out that literally have a banner hanger thing?
So I have started conversations with ODOT, and right now there are no, but I'll still work on them. I'll wear them down.
Okay.
How large are those banners?
I'm sorry,
How large are they? How tall are they?
they're 24 by 48.
Sucks. Okay, any questions for Administrator Wait before we move on?
No questions.
Councilor Shannon?
I have no question.
Councilor Arnold?
No questions.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the police department, and we'll go on with Chief Parisi.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the community. March was a great month. We actually had one of our officers graduate the academy on March 29th. That's Tim Hart.
He was just here.
Yeah, he was just here, exactly, yeah. And so he's 2 weeks back into his field training, which is really exciting, and he's progressing well. And we also have one other officer in the academy who's set to graduate at the end of May. That's Officer Sapp, and then he'll return. And then, of course, City Administrator Wade just mentioned our last position that's currently in the hiring process, moving rather well, almost finished. So it's looking really good there.
And that's a lateral. That's not requiring any academy or anything else.
Correct. That's a 16-year veteran police officer currently in the job that wants to come and join the team here at Hubbard. Yeah, so it's really exciting. We also completed our evidence inventory last month. That was compliments of an outside entity that's with best practice and industry standard. So we had the evidence supervisor from Salem Police Department come up here with another staff member from Salem Police, and they did a complete evidence inventory, and that's suggested because of the change in leadership as well. And so we did that. We passed with flying colors. There were a couple things, recommendations to tidy up some things that we're going to work really hard to do, even with the limited space that we have in our police department. We're going to have some challenges there, but we look at those as some opportunities, and we're optimistic about being able to do that. So we've got some upcoming training in this calendar year with respect to the domestic violence protocol training that's put on by the Marion County DA's office, and we're looking forward to that. That's supposed to occur every 3 years. It's very important training along the lines of the domestic violence and whatnot. So we take that really serious, and we will be fully engaged in that. Myself and Officer Bentley were able to attend some in-service training this last month in Silverton. It was kind of an interagency training. A lot of the smaller agencies got together. Silverton PD hosted it, and so there was a whole host of different agencies there. We were able to go through a 3-hour block of legal updates from the district attorney's office. And also we were able to get some training on the LEAD program, which is a law enforcement assisted diversion program, which we here at Hubbard Police will fully embrace as well, and work with LEAD to try to divert some of those low-level offenders who commit criminal activity and or have drug addiction that don't necessarily need to be wrapped up into the system, but we'll be able to have other resources, programs will help with housing and things of that nature. So we actually already have one candidate that recently committed a crime within our community. It was a theft, and this particular person has some substance abuse issues as well. And so we're working to connect that person with the LEAD program and what have you. I should also say that we were invited to have a seat at the table there on their work groups. And so we're going to have a representative every 2 weeks on Thursday join the LEAD work group meeting, if you will, to talk about resources that are out there for our community members and things of that nature. So we're excited to be involved with that as well. The Easter egg was mentioned. Easter egg hunt was mentioned. This was my first one. It was a great time. It was such a hoot. I mean, the weather couldn't have been any better. And Sergeant Anderson and myself were both there, and it was just a really great event. Phenomenal turnout. A lot of people, a lot of kids. Some really awesome big old Easter egg baskets that were put together. When some of the kids found those gold eggs, they got that. So it was really cool to see that. We got great pictures, and we just had a really great time interacting and engaging with the community there. So I have to say that I really enjoyed my role here at Hubbard Police Department. I feel it's a real privilege to serve the community of Hubbard as your chief, and still making my way around, talking to a lot of great folks, residences and business owners, and really just engaging with as many people as I can throughout my time. So I think that's about the, end of our update.
Any questions for Chief Greasy? That was generally all. Okay, we're good to go.
No, I have some comments anyway.
What do you have, Tom?
I do, yeah. So, looking at this report now, this monthly statistical report and many years ago, previously when I was on city council, I was actually the spark plug to get this report started. And so two things that I've noticed, and I'm not quite sure how you've done this. I know there's been some legalities to, you know, doing probable cause and things like that, but towed vehicles are 0. That number used to be over 300 10 years ago, a month. Arrests, 1. I don't know how you accomplish that, but those numbers are extremely low. Not complaining one bit, absolutely not complaining one bit. Either one of those two numbers are extremely low. I'm very happy to see them that low. I just don't know how you do it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I mean, I think personally, I'd like to see no arrests, no towed vehicles, right? People are minding their own business, doing the right thing. Probably a good thing. Always total.
I don't. So, any other questions for Chief Greasy before we move on? All right,
I do want to connect with you after the meeting.
Yeah, me too.
we'll move on to Director Lowell.
I was gonna report since, police, Chief Breezy has come on board that all of us gained about 10 pounds. And cake coming in. But anyway.
And that's for the record.
It's now.
It's been great. Everybody's been coming in and saying hi to him, and I think they really appreciate him in the position. So I just want to bring your attention, it is election year coming up in November, and we're gonna have 2 council positions and a mayor. And the first date that you can file your nominating petition is June 5th. Going down to the land use section, the EOA, at the time I wrote the report, was pending acceptance, and I believe we are now in writing agreement for that. So that's moving right along. We had a meeting today. The laserfish update, we're wrapping up the templates, and we're moving on to the next phase. I don't have anything else to add to my report unless you have any.
Any questions for Director Lowell? Council Aldridge? I have none.
No questions.
Council Sanders?
No questions.
Council Arnold? Any questions? Move on to Public Works Department.
Councilor and Mayor, good news, we got the Splash Mountain, concrete foundation for today, which is excellent news. We let it sit for a week, so next Tuesday we'll start filling the building. We figure that'll take about 2 weeks, and then we do the plumbing, and the thing should be ready by the 1st or 2nd week of May.
So you're actually then back on track to open.
Yeah, we are on track with that. We've got our
Wonderful.
permits and everything. We're rocking along with that one quite nicely.
And now we'll have the proper electrical going into it, and the pumps will work, and.
Let's get the building done, get the plumbing done, then we'll get
down,
like,
put out a fire.
hopefully not.
No fires this year, right?
No. And we actually have spare pumps, so if we do lose, knock on wood, we don't, that's the reason for this project. We'll have spare pumps again for next year. I'm putting out, awarding the bid for the concrete work on G Street sidewalk on Thursday. I'm still waiting for a couple of bids to come in. At this time, we've only got 2, but, deadline's up and it's time to get that done.
And we're officially green lit by Union Pacific to do that now. Okay, excellent. Fantastic. 2 years in the making.
3 years.
3 years? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You just lose track.
3 years this week.
Okay,
Lawnmowers have all been serviced. Now I got a couple of, the guys on the crew that are arguing over who gets to run the zero turn and who has to get stuck with a new John Deere. So I think that's a good thing. And we got the final fire hydrant repair done this week, and that was the one over in front of the, bus barn over on J Street. So that project's completed at this point.
So one nitpicky question for you.
Yes.
You guys can tell me to go pound sand later. Along 99 in front of the furniture store, the Dollar Tree, whatever, on the sidewalk, you got the curb that comes down, and we've got like grass growing crazy on the curb, gutter.
Right.
Is that something we as the city can go out with a shovel and remove, or is that something we have to have ODOT do? Because I mean, that's something right there, in all honesty, would improve the appearance just along that street, just getting rid of the overgrown debris in the storm gutters.
Well, technically, that is ODOT.
Yep.
What time we get done, I can run out.
Just something to put on your radar. I mean, I'll even take a shovel if we have something to dump it in. At this
Just
point.
happens at
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Just pointing that out as an easy area to improve.
Volunteer cleanup?
Yeah. Do we, now, of course, on the backside of your report, for, administrative manager's office, Oliver, do you have anything to add on yours in the back?
I do not.
Okay, with that, we'll ask questions then from Councilor Yonlin.
Under the training update, do we need everybody's names on there when they're not doing training? Can we just, I don't know, just gonna shorten the report or whatnot? If you just put who's having training done this week, this month.
Yep.
Rather than everybody's name listed there, because, makes it a little simpler for me to look at.
It'd probably just be an operations thing that can go through administrative way. I mean, ideally, we want to make sure that people are at least getting trained.
I mean, I don't mind the training that's happening under,
No, but you're saying you don't need that.
but we don't need to know that nothing's going on with the manager, with Molly King, with Fred, and just like.
Makes sense on there. Any additional questions?
No questions.
No questions, then we'll move on. Next one would be, Chief Carmen, anything new in the fire district? I am learning, not to say department, fire district.
Thank you for letting me report to you guys. In March, we ran 62 calls for service in Hubbard and surrounding areas where we provide mutual aid to. We did 10 hours of fire inspections and investigations, 10 hours of public education. Sitting tight with 40 members right now. 4 members graduated with their firefighter 1 at the beginning of the month after a burn alarm that we did in Silverton. And then 2 calls of note. One was a structure fire here in town. 4 minutes after the call was dispatched, our engine was on scene. 8 minutes after that, and they arrived to a working attic fire. 8 minutes after that, they had the bulk of the fire knocked down and then cleaned up after that. So they kept it to a single alarm, kept the damage to be less than $10,000 for those homeowners. So very good outcome, great performance from the men and women of the Hubbard Fire District. The second thing I wanted to note, there was a house fire in Woodburn on March 2nd. There was an explosion and a gal sustained would have been fatal wounds. We had one of our members on the engine arrive right after Woodburn's engine, and he's going to get a life-saving award because he put tourniquets on her legs and saved her life. So he'll get that award the second Wednesday in May. I think it's May 9th at our board meeting. So, any questions?
Any questions for Chief Carmen?
Thanks for coming. Okay, actually, I have 2 other things.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
We've cut you off.
We did get a grant from the state fire marshal's office for $34,000, and we will be hiring 2 seasonal firefighters to just help. And to give you an idea, between July 1st and October 31st, between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., we run over 50% of the calls that we do the entire year during those months and those hours. So they're going to help out with that quite a bit. And that's all I got. Thank you for speaking.
Administrator Witt?
Yeah, so Mayor Council, I would like to shout out to the chief They were extremely accommodating during our community visioning process and allowing us to use the fire hall whenever we needed it, short notice, and they set up and tore down for us. And so I just really appreciate that partnership.
I like second that. It was great. I mean, it's one of the few facilities that we can actually depend on to be able to hold something event like that. So thank you. Any additional questions for the chief before we move on? If not, next is my reading test for the consent agenda. We do have one additional item here, 11E, that I will read in. But with that, for the consent agenda, the first one is approval of minutes. First, for February 13th, 2024. Second, February 27th, 2024 special. Third, March 2nd, 2024. B, approval of the March 2024 check register report. C, resolution number 775-2024, resolution amending water rates for the city of Hubbard and repealing resolution number 713-201-2021. My apologies. D, approval of the 2024-2025 budget calendar, which by the way is in the back of your thing. Here's under dates. And E, authorize city administrator Sean Wade to execute the attached Oregon Cooperative Procurement Program IGA HKH0022.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Consent agenda carries. Okay, with that, council will have to now recess the open public meeting, and I would like to thank everyone for attending. To convene a closed executive session to conduct deliberations with the persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations, ORS 192-660-2D, pursuant to ORS 192-664. The council specifically requests that members of the media and other attendees not disclose matters discussed in the executive session. Patrick, thank you for attending. Yep.
Happy, thanks for coming up.
What are that? Active
Yeah.
Chief, I know Crystal plans to be there as well.
I used that one on the spot, so.
She was worried the other day, she's like, they're never gonna invite me back. Like, no, that's all.
It's really exciting. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. We'll I like that. Okay, deal. You got it. Got it. We'll do this. We're ready to talk. This is routine during the rest of the
Council.
Yeah.
We get backlog. Basically, we get backlog by the board, which is what all this is. And they've been getting bigger. Sorry, Administrator Wade has been doing amazing.
Oh.
Getting us profitable.
We're in the exact session.
Well, we're still waiting for Councilor Thomas to come back to us.
Basically, it's about where you have that, you do it in your free time. I mean, I was